These are the 11 best American-made boots. I'm gonna go in order from least expensive to most expensive, and I'm gonna tell you a little bit about each of these 11 boots and also let you know which ones are my favorite. Number one on my list is the Thorogood Mock Toe. This is $250, so it is the lowest priced boot on my list. This is union made in the United States. It's even got this tiny little nylon flag on it, so that way you know they're not lying. But the Thorogood Mock Toe, this is a surprisingly good boot for $250 for its price. There are some issues. I think it's got like a plastic welt, so there are some aspects about it that aren't fantastic, but I did do a huge mock toe comparison. This had the best grip of any sole. This is comparing to Red Wing, Thursday, and also Danner. So I did compare all these together. This performed really, really well. This is a great work boot if you're just gonna beat the heck out of your boots and you don't really mind you're gonna have to get a new pair of boots in about a year or two anyway. Thorogood Mock Toe is a great American-made boot that you can absolutely destroy. It can take a beating. It'll hold up for enough time to get your value out of it, and then, you know, maybe get another one. So the Thorogood Mock Toe, fantastic work boot, great sole, has some issues to it, but that's what you get for 250 bucks. Number two on my list is the Thursday Vanguard. This is one of Thursday's only American-made boots. They also have the Logger, which is also made in the United States, but this doesn't make my list for best American-made boots purely because the heel cap right here is very, very thin, so that actually wears out a little bit too quickly for this one to make my list. But the Vanguard is a totally different story. It's got the half-inch heel cap there. It's got this awesome leather stacked heel. This uses Horween Chrome Excel leather, so it's really, really high-quality leather. This looks a lot like the Captain. People say maybe the fit is a little bit different, but honestly, in my experience, the fit between the Vanguard and Captain isn't all that different. So if you like the look of Thursday boots, but you want something that's made in the United States, definitely check out the Thursday Vanguard. This is a little bit pricier than the Thorogood, about $265 at the time of filming this. And yeah, you get Horween Chrome Excel, that's an American leather too. American construction, I believe they make this in Arkansas, and overall it is a fantastic cap toe boot. Clocking in at number three on my list and $300 is the Red Wing Classic Mock Toe. So this is an icon. I have this in slate mule Skinner leather. Again, you get the wedge sole, 360-degree Goodyear welt, and the Puritan triple stitching along the upper. This is the original mock toe boot, and there are so many guys who basically wear this boot religiously. This is like their main go-to boot, and it's super comfortable. If you're ever struggling with knee pain or back pain, definitely try a wedge sole boot. I've heard of some guys in the past where they had struggled with knee pain, they put on a wedge sole boot and it goes away within a few weeks. I know that can help that extra arch support. One of the things that characterizes Red Wing is that they have a leather insole with cork filler. So basically those natural materials, they take a little while to break in. Maybe your boots aren't so comfortable right off the bat, but as you start to break in that footbed, it becomes super comfortable. And these boots I know last several years. So if you're hard wearing on your boots, then a Red Wing is gonna serve you well. One variant on the Red Wing Mock Toe is the Red Wing Sawmill that I wanna shout out here. I actually prefer the Sawmill to the classic Mock Toe. It's also a Mock Toe boot, but it's got this really cool heavy tread sole, and it's got some padding, some insulation, and it's got D-ring eyelets on the outside. So I think those extra little details there. It's also got a storm welt, so it's a little beefier, a little more winter ready. So I'm really excited to bust this out when the weather cools down. Number four on my list, this is also from Red Wing at $350. It is the Red Wing Iron Ranger. Obviously, you knew the Red Wing Iron Ranger was gonna be on this list of best American-made boots. This is probably the most iconic boot I have in my whole collection. It is a cap toe service boot. It's got the speed hooks, the 4 nickel eyelets, so that's a nice contrast there, the Puritan triple stitching, 270-degree Goodyear welt, and of course it's got the Vibram 430 mini lug sole. I've had the Red Wing Iron Ranger for 2 years now, and I gotta say, it keeps growing on me. It's still one of my favorite boots after 2 years, and I absolutely love this thing, and it's become so comfortable to wear. Now we're taking a jump from $350 up to $450. Number five, the Oak Street Trench Boot. So Oak Street, they make all of their boots in Chicago. They use Horween leather that is also from Chicago. And one of the things that's really interesting about them is everything that they source, even down to the eyelets, is from the United States. So they make a concerted effort to source everything from the United States. There is one exception, that is the Day-Night sole. Day-Night is based in the UK, so the sole is English, but other than that, everything on this boot is American through and through. This right here is natural rough out leather, so this is super durable. Funny story, one of the first times I wore this, I actually trudged through a river and it, up above the ankle too, so this whole boot got soaked inside and out, and still it fits really well. It's super comfortable. It lasted. That's a really bad thing to do to a boot, is completely submerge it in water. You should never purposefully do that. I just ended up doing that with this boot, but even then, because it's all natural materials, you have the leather midsole, the leather leather insole, a little bit of cork filler, and then of course the rubber. It doesn't break down. So with too much fiberboard or something like that, that can break apart and make the insole very uncomfortable. But with the Oak Street trench boot, you're not getting that. You're getting a fantastic quality boot. One thing I can foresee being an issue with the trench boot, and you can watch my review if you want to learn more about this, but the toe box is pretty wide. Guys with wide feet, that could be a blessing. That could be a great thing for you. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of that style. I like it. I think it looks cool. But when it comes to the grand scheme of boots, when you got 1,000 boots to choose from, I like a slightly more narrow toe box. But in terms of quality, the Oak Street trench boot definitely belongs on this list of the best American made boots. Just above the trench boot in price at $475 is the Allen Edmonds Higgins Mill. The Allen Edmonds Higgins Mill is a classic boot. That's another very iconic boot. A lot of guys know about it. A lot of guys want it. And that's because it is a fantastic plain toe service boot made with Horween Chrome Excel leather. It's got some interesting stitching and details along the side. And overall, if you were kind of hearing what I was saying with the Oak Street trench, where you're like, oh, you know, maybe that is a little bit too stubby for me, the toe, then I would look towards the Allen Edmonds Higgins Mill, because that is that more sleek, more narrow plain toe service boot. It's not quite as narrow as the Thursday Vanguard or the Thursday Captain, but it does have a little bit more of a mature look to it without being so wide, so bulky, more like maybe say like a Red Wing Iron Ranger or the Oak Street trench that I was talking about earlier. At $480 is the Truman P-79 cap toe boot. This is their 79 last. They have a bunch of different leathers, so the price does vary on that. This one in particular is $480. There are some that are more expensive and there are some that are less expensive than that. Really depends on the leather you get. This is Horween brown waxed flesh leather. It is quite stiff out of the box, but as I've been breaking it in, they're getting more comfortable. But this is one of the most impressive boots that I've seen this year. Truman, they're based out of Oregon, so they make all their boots in what I consider the Pacific Northwest region, along with Nicks, Whites, and some other brands you're gonna see in a little bit. But what originally turned me on to Truman boots and how I learned about them is I was going to a cobbler, a well-known cobbler in my area. I was gonna resole a pair of Thursday boots, and I went in, I was wearing my Red Wing Iron Rangers. The cobblers, I saw what they were wearing. They were all wearing Truman boots. I was like, what the heck's with that? They told me about it. Truman, they're basically a leather lovers boot company. So if you want a boot with a unique, interesting leather, something with a lot of character in the grain, then Truman would definitely be the boot brand for you. We're taking another leap up to $600 with the Alden Indy. And if this boot is good enough for Indiana Jones, then I certainly hope it's good enough for you. This is another American classic mock toe boot. Now, it's not a true mock toe like the Red Wing mock toe we saw earlier, because this stitch is just decorative, but it keeps a very low profile. It's pretty narrow throughout the waist here of the foot, and it also has a 270-degree Goodyear weld. Now, one thing that's interesting about the Alden Indy that I really appreciate is that it has a really long heel counter. So the heel counter on most boots would maybe go about this far, but the heel counter here actually goes all the way back here. It's built on a combination last, so the heel is gonna be a little bit more narrow, and the forefoot is gonna be a little bit wider. Basically what that means is when you put this boot on, it almost feels like it locks your heel into place, and you can kind of see the shape of this boot as well is very unique. This heel kind of curvature in is very pronounced, much more pronounced than you'd see on other boots. My impression of this boot after wearing it is that those subtle details in the fit and sizing make this one of the most comfortable American-made boots you can get. Now, Alden has had some issues in the past, and you can see this in reviews. They have had some issues with QC, maybe some stitches loose and stuff like that here and there. I haven't noticed that on my pair of Indies. All I've noticed is that they're extremely comfortable. I don't know if they're $600 worth of value at this point, because there are so many American-made boot brands out there that are doing fantastic work, but still, I gotta hand it to Alden. This is a fantastic boot. Even if you spent $600 on it, I don't think you'd be disappointed, because it's so comfortable and it comes in such a wide variety of sizes too. Now, if you're about to burn $600 on a pair of boots and you're thinking, okay, am I gonna do the Indy? Well, you could also do the Nicks Americana for that same price. The Nicks Americana, this is probably the toughest boot I've ever worn in my entire life, and it was also the most difficult break-in I've had. This is that Horween waxed brown flesh, and it's got a stitch down construction. I put a Vibram V-bar outsole on this bad boy, but you could also do the 430 mini lug. One thing about this boot is you can get this fully customized. So if you wanted a different leather, if you want the leather around the midsole and the heel stack there, if you wanted that to be different, you can have that painted differently. You can put whatever outsole you want on this thing. You could choose how many rows of stitching you get along the toe cap. So I love that it's fully customizable. Another thing about Nicks is that you can get fully customized fitting as well. So it takes about a full year if you're gonna go through the whole fitting process process, get a sample boot, measure your size, send it back to them, and then get a custom boot. That would take you 12 months to get this boot. Or if you want, you can do the made to order, like ready-made type boot. I got a size 10. My foot is pretty similar across all brands, so I didn't really have to worry so much about getting something special. I got the ready-made, and it took me about 6 months to get this boot. At $630, the next boot on this list is another Pacific Northwest classic. It is the White's Packer boot. So it has this Packer heel that's got a very, very sharp angle to it. Stitched down construction. I added the kiltie on there, and it is an 8-inch boot. This thing is super, super tough. One thing about these Pacific Northwest boots that I didn't expect, and especially it's way different than when you're talking about like Red Wing or some of these other American-made boots, is you get an insane amount of arch support in these boots, because they actually have like a wedge of leather in the arch. And the reason why they use that little wedge of leather in the arch is because Whites and Nicks, they fully expect their boots to last like 7, 8, 9, 10 years. Certainly over 10 years for me, but you know, some of these guys like firefighters, they're doing some legit crazy stuff in their boots. So when you're breaking in a pair of boots and it has a leather shank or it has a piece of leather in that for that arch support, basically that's gonna break in as well with the rest of the insole and midsole. And that basically means that if you had a steel shank, the steel shank would start to kind of bother the middle of your foot over time as the whole boot broke in. But if it's leather, the whole thing's gonna break in as like one smooth strip. And so the boots just become more comfortable. There's not a point like 3-4 years down the road where that steel shank starts to poke into your foot. It just stays comfortable. It continues to break in. The White's Packer, this is a phenomenal American-made boot. It's definitely close to the top of the list in terms of price, but there's still one more that's a little bit more expensive. The last boot on my list at $670 is the Wesco Mr. Lou. And I gotta be honest, this is probably my favorite boot. It's not just because it's the most expensive, but there is something super special, super unique about this boot. This is a double row stitch down construction like Nicks and Whites, but it's a lot more, it seems a lot more refined. Maybe that's just because the Wesco Mr. Lou, it doesn't need to be as rugged. I think with the Packer and Americana, that double row stitch down is more built with like work purpose in mind. It's got a little more wiggle room. The Mr. Lou, not that you couldn't work in these, but these are more like, you know, motorcycle boots, or I just wear them for style. I don't ride a motorcycle. Maybe I ride a bike or a Vespa or something like that. And one thing I really like about this particular Horween Chrome Excel, I mean, I know we had at the bottom of our list, this is the Thursday Vanguard with Horween Chrome Excel, and then we have something that costs 3 times more, the Wesco Mr. Lou with Horween Chrome Excel. But there's also differences in the type of Horween Chrome Excel. The Horween Chrome Excel that Wesco selects is got a little more character to it. It's less corrected. Not that the Horween Chrome Excel on the Vanguard is bad. I've seen Horween Chrome Excel on tons of different boots, and honestly, it's always an impressive leather. But there's something about the selection that Wesco did for their Mr. Lou that it blows me away. Wesco's been around for over 100 years. They've been pumping out amazing boots. They have such an amazing reputation, and I finally see why. One thing that is really cool about this pair of engineer boots is that the shaft is like a pretty slim fit. It doesn't add a bunch of bulk around the bottom of your pants. It slides under a slim straight pant leg or a straight leg pant leg, and you wouldn't even notice that there was extra leather popping out. It doesn't like a cowboy boot that can kind of imprint on the inside of your jeans. This does not do that. One of my favorite things about this boot is it's got a little bit of taper here on that heel, so it's got a little bit of that logger heel, and it's got a 1-inch heel cap, so this is basically gonna take so long for this to wear out. So it's a super sturdy boot, beautiful materials, and honestly, probably my top boot on this list. If you found my list of best American-made boots helpful, please give me a thumbs up and also hit that subscribe button down below. You can check out some of my favorite boots in 2022 right over here. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, put your best boot forward.